Yes.
Let's welcome Morara Kabaso, who is here this morning. Good morning, Morara. How are you?
Very well, thank
We
you.
understand that you were lost somewhere in Nairobi traffic.
Yes.
Our commiserations.
Yeah,
but we are
it's
happy
okay.
that you're here.
Thank you.
We would have given you an opportunity to tell us what you think about the proverb that CT shared today, and I think we'll do that for like 3 seconds.
Okay.
CT,
Yes, we
will
will.
repeat that for
Our
Morara?
proverbs are from the Republic of the Gambia. Not the Kenya or the Tanzania, but the Gambia. If a donkey kicks you and you kick it back, you are both donkeys.
Yeah. This is what I would relate it to. If you joke with fire, you'll expect it to burn you. If you stone a monkey, the monkey will stone you back. And I'll relate it to what happened in Isiolo between the president and the youth. The president is complaining about the youth heckling at him, but I believe he was also quite disrespectful to the people that elected him and gave him the opportunity to be our president. So whatever he got ni musiba wa kujitakia ambao hauna kilio.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this proverb is alive and active.
Yes.
Essentially, today. All right.
It has actually gone to Isiolo.
From the Gambia.
From the Gambia to
From the Gambia to Isiolo.
We asked Kasmuel earlier, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this as well.
Yes.
That we've been looking at the clamour, and we've been feeling the clamour over the last decade plus for there to be inclusion of youth in the political sphere. That not just inclusion for, clapping and, giving accolades, but inclusion whereby leadership opportunities are taken up by young people.
Yes.
Where are we there now?
Well, we've made considerable progress, but there are a few problems that we need to identify. Number one is how expensive our politics is. Politics in Kenya is very expensive, and until we deal with campaign financing, or rather the citizenry change their attitude towards asking for money from politicians, the young people do not have a chance in elective politics, because then they do not have the kind of money that politicians have or have sourced from corruption, which they use to campaign. Most of the young people actually do not have jobs and not even have thriving businesses. People like Morara are like 1% of young people. I'm not a true representation of what young people are actually going through. Most of the young people are economically impoverished, and therefore even thinking about leadership is not something that comes to their mind. Secondly, there is that fear. Because young people are very expressive, and you've seen it even on the internet, on X, and people do fear young energy. Even in the jungle, when a young lion comes up, the old ones are usually very scared. So young people, wherever they've done politics around the world, they've been very expressive and very energetic in their politics in a way that kind of scares the establishment. Now, the young people are also sometimes scared of being abducted, killed, or disappeared, or death threats. Very few people can withstand some of the things that young leaders like myself who've decided to come up have been able to withstand. So there's also that challenge of being threatened and being targeted when you are a young leader. And lastly, I would say that the few young leaders that have broken the ice and that have been able to make it to Parliament and Senate, they've not been a true representation of what we'd want as young leadership.
Why is that?
They've not conducted themselves in a manner as to how we would want a young leader to conduct themselves to give confidence to young leadership. There are very few, extremely few young leaders that have behaved in a manner that is respectable, but a majority of them have behaved in a manner that is very condescending. Some of the people that actually do the very wrong things that we are talking about, and corruption and theft of public funds. The people are abusive at funerals, who hire goons, who practice political violence. Some of them are very young people, some even below the age of 35, below the age of 30. So then they do not inspire confidence in the citizenry to trust young leadership. So there's that problem that those who have gone ahead of us are not really representing what young people actually represent and stand for.
Just to jump in, first of all, I'd like to apologize. I saw he's a rather brave man, because just talking about the threats that the young people are facing, I think I saw some people dropped coffins, empty coffins, yes, in front of his house. I think that's part of the intimidation that the young people are facing, and I'd just like to tender my heartfelt apologies to the party leader of the INJECTS party of Kenya. Yes.
Why? Okay, go ahead, Mark.
You know, as young people, and it is true, the Gen Z has carried this nation into a total new dispensation, and of course we see what you guys are doing out there in terms of activism, talking about what issues are going on. But do you think there is going to be more movement, right? And I'm not talking by movement, I don't mean demonstrations, all of those things. By movement, I mean you've created one step, you move one step ahead. Do you think that the energy you have, the support that you have, will be able to deliver the next step in terms of the transformation that you want? So, for example, when you are talking about failed projects, etc., do you see the next step of seeing these projects completed, for example?
If I was to look at it this way, first, it's not possible for some of these projects to be completed because money was budgeted for, it was paid. For example, last week I did the hospital in Mahimahio, level 4 hospital. The contractors paid the whole 153 million. So this is money that was budgeted and has already been paid. So the chance that, again, the county assembly would allow some more money to be budgeted would be maybe a conduit for corruption, but most of these projects actually will remain stalled for a long time until probably we get a government that is interested in completing them. Secondly, we have a problem with how our budget is structured. We have a 3.9 billion budget, but 70% of it is going to trillion budget. And most of it is going to recurrent expenditure. You know, per diems, people traveling outside the country with their girlfriends, people traveling with their relatives, and 30% is what is left for development, and that development is not really development. It is paying pending bills and paying debt. So then we are left with nothing. But if I was to look at it this way, I believe as young people there is some very serious political and civic education that is required before we can actually see the fruits of our labor. Because the Gen Zs have labored, but can that labor bear fruit? And for it to bear fruit, there is some political education that is required. We need to realize, okay, that our problem is not just the leaders. It is the system that brings this kind of leaders to power. So we may be making the mistake of focusing so much on individuals and forgetting that these individuals are a product of a failed system. So when you look at William Ruto as a president and you're disappointed about his economic policies, you're disappointed about abductions, you're disappointed about killings, you need to go back and ask yourself, how did he actually get here? How did he become a president with an ICC case for mass murder? How did he become a president with corruption allegations? Which kind of system have we created where Anne Waiguru can leave NYS with allegations of corruption of up to 20 billion shillings and be elected a governor not once, but twice?
See, she was taking lighter duties.
But also,
so what makes us trust this kind of people, or how exactly do we end up with this kind of people in power? We have the MP for Nyaribari Masaba, Daniel Manduku, who had a corruption case in Kenya Ports Authority and was, gifted this position of member of parliament by his people. The same happened to Gladys Bosholei in Uasin Gishu. She had a corruption case at the judiciary and she was elected a women rep. So then we need to ask ourselves, by removing President William Ruto, will we have solved the problem? Because right now, look at the political formations that are forming. You realize that it is the same old monkeys looking for opportunities to recycle themselves back into the forest. So you remove Muizi A, you replace with Muizi B.
Yes.
You remove incompetent A, you replace with the competent B. You remove abductor A, you replace with abductor B. It's the same case of removing Kidero and putting Sonko, of removing Kaboga and putting Waititu. So what are we doing about expanding our choices? And good people and people of integrity need to step up and take positions of leadership. They need to stop fearing politics.